We realised that there was something up with Oliver when he was about 6 months old, actually. And initially, it was just little things, like he would fixate on something and just keep looking at it and not look at people. And things like his developmental milestones, like crawling and walking, he did it just at the end. So just as we were starting to get worried, he would suddenly start crawling. But all the time we just thought there's still something there. And then eventually, when he got to the age of 2.5 and he still wasn't babbling, because that was one milestone he still hadn't reached. He wasn't babbling at all. We knew that there was a problem, and we got him diagnosed. But I mean, what we found in the early days was a lot of people were saying, "Oh, don't worry, he'll grow out of it, he'll get better." And it's like, no, there's something more fundamental than that. So I'm really glad we persisted with it. We were really lucky that he got diagnosed.
I agree with Sally here to begin with, because she says about that people were saying that, oh, he'll just get better, he'll get over it, there's nothing wrong with him, keep going. And no, if you notice autism, there is symptoms for quite a long early age, and they usually start assessing people from the age of 2, I think it is, for autism. So as she spotted these symptoms in her son, she's well in her rights to do that, and she felt she needed to get her son assessed and did it the right way and got him the right support when he clearly needed it. So good on Sally. I'm pleased that she able to get help for her son, and well done for speaking up on it.
So young, because it's made such a difference to him. He got statemented at the age of 3, but I think it was because he didn't speak a word. There's no way he could have gone to school without any help. I mean, he did not say a word. He couldn't communicate. I used to make this little book with pictures in that he used to point at. If he wanted a biscuit, he would point at a picture of a biscuit. And we did some Makaton as well. We started to learn Makaton. And then suddenly at the age of 3 and a bit, he started talking, which was amazing. And that's partly because, developmentally, he probably was going to anyway, but also he was at the speech and language unit, which made such a difference to him, and it was purely because he was statemented that he was able to go to that school.
Again, she said about getting him statemented. A lot of children in the UK, as well as her child who's in the UK, sometimes you can't get the children statemented, and it's not always easy access to get a statement for a child for special educational needs. So again, it depends where your provider is and where the provision is to get statemented and put into a special school or into a mainstream school. So not all services are easily accessible to get a statement. So again, it depends where you are for service provider.
We were really lucky in terms of Oliver's education because he couldn't speak. It was quite easy, which I know isn't most parents' experience, but it was quite easy for us to get him statemented because it was so obvious that he needed help. And we're lucky in Westminster. There are a couple of speech and language units attached to mainstream schools, and that's where he went. It wasn't a specific autism unit, it was a speech and language unit, but they did focus very much on social communication as well. And, there he absolutely thrived, and he was there for 2 years, and then he was able to go into mainstream school. So it's been pretty smooth for us. I mean, he's now in mainstream school and has been. He's now just 8. It's been pretty smooth for us. He's got a full-time teaching assistant, and he's doing really well.
We feel we've been very fortunate, partly because of the starkness and obvious nature of his difficulty, and partly, I think, because we were pretty...
Again, it depends on the parent and child support. It depends whether you can get access to provision to help. Early intervention is crucial, and I think that if you can get intervention early and get them access to a special school or an assessment autism unit, the quicker the better. But some parents and children are unlucky in that aspect, and they go through primary school and mostly mainstream school without any support whatsoever. So it depends where you are, if you can get into that provision or not. So not all children are going to have a smooth access to mainstream school or primary school education and access to learning support assistants or a teacher assistant. So again, it just depends where you are locally if you can get that provision or not.
Quick off the mark, and partly, indeed very substantially, because Westminster was excellent in terms of its speed of response and the availability of excellent and expert provision. But if you're asking us, do we think that that's typical, or would we want the message from this exchange to go out that it's fine out there? Absolutely not.
No.
There are examples of very good practice, and I have met parents, including in my constituency, who've been able to access dedicated and the right help early, but I've got a very long list of examples in my head and in my files, just as a constituency MP, of people who haven't been able to get the help. So, yes, there's good practice, but there's a lot of evidence of inadequate practice and of late intervention, of difficulties undiagnosed, and intervention and help not taking place. So there's still a long way to go.
I agree with him absolutely. He says about there's not a lot of education and awareness out there. I agree with him that he says about that the provision needs to be put further out and easier access made to it. But the problem is, again, if there's not an access service for you to get access to an assessment, you have to wait a long time through the system. And unfortunately, a lot of the UK children, and especially adults now as well, fall through the system because they have underlying health conditions such as depression, anxiety. And with children, there is not enough support. A lot of the hospitals will say, oh, they'll grow out of it. It's just a delayed milestone. That there's nothing to do with autism or anything else. They'll be fine. And it's not the case at all. So I completely agree with him there. Well put, John. Well put.
I think there is a big challenge of public understanding of
gosh,
autism.
yes.
Because after all, people actually within your own circle, amongst your family and friends, wish you well. So they do mean well, but it is absolutely exasperating, infuriating, maddening. The list of adjectives is endless. When people, in a bid to reassure you, say, oh, it's going to be fine, and they've always got some anecdotal reason as to why it will be fine. Even indeed, if I may say so, my own...
Yes, I absolutely agree with John Burko and Sally Burko here. They always say about people say, oh, you're fine, everything's going to be an easy ride, everything's going to be good for you, there's nothing for you to get stressed or worried or anxious about. No, when you're autistic, your emotions are heightened, your behaviour is heightened, everything is a lot of a process to take in, and it's not okay. You never get over things. Things are difficult to process because you have the sensory issues, you have the anxiety to deal with, so stop telling us that everything's going to be okay. Completely agree with you there, John. Well put.
Mother said to me, oh, there's nothing to worry about, dear. You didn't speak until you were 3, but you've made up for it fairly comprehensively ever since.
Well, she was right there.
She was right there, but I think she thought, oh, there's nothing to worry about, and they wanted to reassure us. But the fact is there was a problem. And amongst the public, I still think there's a very wide and pervasive tendency to conflate disability with disobedience.
Yeah, I mean...
Absolutely, John. Another well-made point you've said there about that disability often gets waylaid with disobedience. And a lot of the time people say, oh, autism means that you're disobedient, you're rude, you're blunt, you're direct, you're naughty, you're spoiled, you're naughty children deliberately. And that's the problem. We're not spoiled children at all. That's the problem. We are people who want to be supported. So another great point.
Very much. I mean, we've found, in supermarkets and so on, particularly when Oliver was younger, if he had a meltdown or behaved irrationally, people would just think it was bad parenting on my part, or that he was being a naughty child. No, he's autistic. There is not enough awareness out there. In a relationship, it's...
I want to say about the supermarket incident, again, that's a sensory overwhelm environment. Supermarkets are noisy, crowded, loud, they smell funny. So again, Oliver was probably going to have a meltdown because them environments aren't the most suitable for autistic people. So don't just say we're being naughty or deliberately awkward, because we're not. So another good point made, Sally.
Tough. It does put extra pressure. A lot of people do, marriages do come under stress and pressure, and I can see why. We have been very lucky. We've got the support, but particularly if you have to go into battle, with your local authority, it must be really tough.
And almost inevitably, the child with the difficulty...
I like the fact they say about parents being overwhelmed and it can cause marriage difficulties. That is a really good reason to speak up about it. Because again, a lot of parents do end their marriages due to children being on the spectrum or not having enough support in that environment. So that is another well-made point, Sally. I do agree with that.
absorbs a huge amount
Yeah.
of your attention. So it's pretty unfair.
On the other
It's
two.
not his fault, but it's
Yeah.
pretty unfair on the other.
Freak out. To be honest, I know this sounds really trite, but we both went to university. I couldn't give a damn whether Oliver goes to university or not. I just want him to be happy and to achieve what he can achieve, and he's got loads of potential. I mean, I very much hope that he'll live independently.
I really must agree with that as well, Sally, that you've done really well to say that Oliver can do anything he puts his mind to. I really do agree with that statement. I really think it's a good thing that you're saying that Oliver can choose his own occupation and not have to worry about being academic or in any other environment of that nature. I do agree with you.
I hope that he'll get married. I hope that he'll have kids. I mean, who knows? But just the aspirations of any normal parent, really, but not sort of pushy parent, he's got to go to university kind of thing. You just want him to do what makes him happy.
I think the forming of relationships is incredibly important, and you often read and hear of the isolating consequences of autism for many people, and we just hope that such consequences don't apply to him, that despite the...
I must say another good point is relationships and friendships, and they've just said about it being completely isolating. That is another valid point. You do get really isolated as you are on the spectrum, and people misread you, and it is a really difficult topic to talk about and try to put your head around. So I'm really glad he's mentioning this right now.
Triad of impairments: social communication, social imagination, social interaction. Oliver will be able... He said that when he grew up he'd like to be an artist. But equally, if he's playing a very enjoyable game, take no for an answer. Trust your instincts. If you've got an instinct that there is a problem, as I say, don't let some well-meaning
say,
GP
they'll grow
try
out
to
of it.
modify you or say it doesn't matter or urge you to...
Yeah, I will really agree with this. Parents who want to get their children assessed or feel that there is something wrong on the autistic spectrum, please go to your doctors or GP or physician or anyone within the medical community and get a referral. The quicker you get a referral and assessment, the better your child will cope with it and the better you will feel for it. Unfortunately, it didn't happen to me, but this is one of the most important things that they can say, and I really do agree with this message.
To wait, so go for it, because after all it's risk-free. It's better to have the knowledge. And secondly, when you're thinking about trying to get the right educational provision and so on, use your member of parliament. I mean, that's what MPs are there for, to help. And
I must say that I disagree with that, because not a lot of people like myself were able to get access to my member of parliament back in the day, because we didn't really have one and my parents didn't know what to do, so I disagree there. But I really think the main point of their story is to tell their story about their son. And I really like this interview, so I hope you like this video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe for more on my channel. Bye guys!